Hey crafters, crocheters, knitters, and yarn enthusiasts, you guys ready for our next blanket? Y'all seem to really love the spider stitch blanket, and I do too, okay, because I'm actually still working on one. But today we've got to move on. We got to leave the spider stitch behind us because I still have a very big project pile to go through. So today's blanket is Jacob's Ladder. Now Jacob's Ladder has been around for as long as I can remember. Okay, so everybody's got their own way of doing it. So here's my way. Hi, my name is Jenny. Welcome to Granny Square Peg. It's a channel where I went through my yarn stash because I couldn't crochet anymore from a rotator cuff injury, and I was purging, but I wasn't purging fast enough or enough. And then when I was done that, I decided to go through my project pile. So here we are. Today is Sunday, someday in July, I don't know, and we're doing Jacob's Ladder. Now I used a lot of yarn for this blanket, and if you saw that opening clip, this blanket is 120 inches long. It's like 6 feet, okay? More than 6 feet. What's the math on that? 10 feet, there we go. Because I fell in love with the Premier Sweet yarns, and I wanted to use every color that they made, so I did. I bought one cake of every color and I put it all in the same blanket. So there we go. I'm gonna get out of the way. That is black pepper swirl, and it goes all the way down, and lots of purples, browns, blues, reds, all the way down. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off of my bookshelf because I don't like the way it's hanging. It's very heavy. And then we'll do details, okay? So obviously I cannot sit with this blanket on my lap today to tell you how pretty it is, right? It's way too warm, even with the air conditioner on. Yeah, I know, you can see the yarn tails I didn't take care of. Because it turns out, I think I might have lied to you, but not on purpose. I told you this blanket was completely done and all the yarn tails were tucked in. Turns out it's not. It's a whole bunch of yarn tails on the back side of the blanket that I hadn't seen when it was sitting in the bin. So the one spider stitch blanket that I have was made with Premier Sweet Rolls, and it was the colors that for whatever reason would not have fit well in this blanket. So I did buy one of every color, so it wound up being what, 27 colors they had at the time, and those 7 didn't fit in with this theme or color palette or whatever. So let's see, I made this in, well, I started in July of 2017. So now it is July 2023, right? I had taken a break from it from July, August, September, and I didn't pick it up again until December of 2017. And then I put it down until 2019 when I bought yarn to do the border. Because again, like with all my blankets, I was undecided on whether or not I was going to do a border. I did the border in 2019 and then put it in a bin and haven't touched it since. Okay, so you know, when I fall in love with a stitch, I really fall in love with it and I start using it on every project, and I'll have multiple projects, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, because I fell in love with the stitch. Did I fall in love with Jacob's Ladder? No. Is it easy to make? Yeah, it is, but it gets a bit fiddly if you do it in the old traditional way where you have a chain of 10 and they just kind of float around because you eventually create loops with them. It makes it a bit fiddly. And then because you make your chain so big, but what happens is when you do the loops, it brings the blanket in. So you thinking you're making a 6-foot blanket, and when you're done, it only comes in, you know, 3 feet or 4 feet, something like that. So you do have to understand what you're doing so you can tweak your numbers. So mine is really big, really big. It's 60 inches wide and it's 120 inches tall. So I'm going to put it on the step stool and we'll get a closer look at it, and I will show you all my notes and what I did. And I have all the yarn labels today too, so I do know ounces and yardage because you guys like to ask me those questions in the comments. I don't always have the information with me when all the comments come in because I put all my notes away. So be patient with me. You know, I have to go back and look at my notes and give you some answers. All right, so let's change angles. Okay, so my first color that I used is called Silver Swirl. Will my camera focus on that? And that's this grays and silvers and white. Okay, so before I actually started with the Silver Swirl, what I did was I did my chain in just plain old basic white, and it's probably Red Heart Super Saver. And then my first row, row 1, is still in the Red Heart white, and then I started with the Silver Swirl. Okay, so I'm trying to show you a section of, these are 10 double crochets, and then these are 10 chains, and then 10 double crochets, because that's how Jacob's ladder works. When you have all these sections of just a chain 10 or 5 or 7, whatever number you decide to use, you eventually go through when you're done with the blanket and loop them all up. So I will tell you about the pattern, but first I just want to go through these colors. So with the Silver Swirl, I wrote it down, I got 10 rows out of the Silver Swirl, I want to say. Yeah, 10 rows out of the Silver Swirl. Okay, the next color is this pinkish reddish color. Let's see. So pinkish red is called Pink Swirl, and I got 9 rows out of this. Ew. Next color is this green. I know, I put green next to the red. It's called Mint Swirl. I only got 8 rows out of the green. And then next is this purple color. It is called Grape Swirl. And this purple, the Grape Swirl, I use this on the border. Okay, I got 9 rows out of the grape. Caramel Swirl. Do you guys say caramel or caramel? If I'm eating the candy, I say caramel. If I'm talking about a color, I say caramel. So caramel was 9 rows. Next is Blueberry Swirl. I did not get a lot out of the Blueberry Swirl. I only got 7 rows out of that. Another red one called Wild Cherry. Get 9 rows out of that. And let's see, Punch Pop. This one's Punch Pop, and it was 9 rows. Butterscotch Pop, 9 rows, which is one of my favorite colors because, you know, I like mustard yellow and I like my creamy colors. Okay, what color is that? Frosty Swirl. Frosty Swirl gave me 7 rows. Blackberry Swirl gave me 9 rows. Cherry Swirl, which is not wild cherry, but just Cherry Swirl, 9 rows. See, the blues and the grays is called Ice Pop, and I got 10 rows. Oh, this is another favorite color right here too. Which one did they call that? Root Beer Pop. Oh, yeah, I love that. Very 70s. Got 9 rows out of the Root Beer Pop. And let's see, this is Lavender Swirl, so it's lighter in color than the Grape Swirl. And that gave me 9 rows. Wasabi Pop is 9 rows. Raspberry Swirl, 9 rows. And Black Pepper Swirl, 9 rows. And then when I was done with it, I did 4 rounds to the border. On this short side at the top and at the bottom, I did single crochets. Okay, and then more single crochets. Yes, I did not want to add any length to the top of the blanket or to the bottom of the blanket, so I only did 4 rounds of single crochet. On the long ends, I didn't mind giving it some more width, so I did double crochets, double crochets with an occasional front post, and then single crochets with the occasional front post. Give it a little bit of texture. And a little bit of texture to go along with the Jacob's ladder that's going on here. So I used 20 cakes of yarn. 20. 18 for the blanket, and then 2 for the border. So where's my halfway point with the blanket? If I did 18 colors, somewhere between 9 and 10 is the middle of the blanket. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so then here, in between, what is this? Butterscotch and Frosty Swirl is the midway point between the blanket. Okay? Not that it matters, but you know, I keep track of stats like that. So if you guys noticed, I'll have to lay it out on the floor so you can see. When I did the what was this one? Silver Swirl. On the other end is the black pepper swirl. So it's black, grays, and whites. And then with this cherry red here, this wild cherry, on the other end is red. And then I did green here, and then on the other end it is green. It should almost mirror itself with colors. So I'll have to lay it out on my bed and show it to you that way. So Jacob's ladder. My initial starting chain. You guys are not gonna like this. My initial starting chain was 250 plus 7 plus 7 plus 3. Okay, why is that? Well, because 250 is what I wanted in the middle. I did 7 double crochets here in the beginning, and then I needed 3 for the turning chain. I know, that's just what I did. Everybody's got their own way of doing Jacob's ladder, okay? Everybody's got their own way. So when I did my first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I did a chain 10. Okay, I chained 10 and skipped 10. 10 double crochets, chain 10, skip 10. 10 double crochets, chain 10, and skip 10. This is my chain right here. Okay, this is my 10 chains. So what happens is when you do 10 chains on the next round, on the next row, and then 10 chains on the next row, 10 chains on the next row, that when you're done at the end of the blanket, you take the second one, loop it in through the first one. You take the third one, loop it in through the second one, and then it creates this ladder effect that goes all the way up. You see how it stretches out? So there's a lot of moving parts in the Jacob's ladder. Would I make another one? Probably not. It can be a bit fiddly, and a lot of times I just want my blankets to be nice and simple. Okay, nice and simple. It's how I relax at night. So that's why I had done front post double crochets and front post single crochets on the border, just to give the border a little bit of texture to match the blanket. Okay, so 61 inches tall, wide. I'm sorry, did I just say tall? Oh, it's a day. 61 inches wide with the border and 120 inches tall. Okay, I wanted it to be a boyfriend blanket. For all of you who have men in your lives who cannot cover their toes and their shoulders at the same time because they are so tall, and you don't have the patience to make them a really big blanket, I made one for them. So, it's Jacob's ladder, but it's also a boyfriend blanket. Let's get another look at it real quick, huh? And then I will tell you how much yarn I used and the cost of all the yarn, because Premier still makes the yarn, just not in all of these colors anymore. I certainly had my favorite colors working on this, absolutely. Oh, and when I was done with this color here, I made sure that I ended at the end of the row, cut my yarn, and started the next one. I didn't have any color changes that happened in the middle of a row. If this pink only had a little bit left, it would only get me halfway through. I backed it all up and then cut it at the end of the row so I can start fresh. So here is my bag of leftovers. See? All the leftovers. Oh, this is from the border. Okay. I didn't want my yarn, I didn't want the colors to end in the middle of a row. So I cut them. And so while I didn't use all 5 ounces of the cake, I used most of it because you see these balls of yarn are not all that big. Okay, that's probably the wasabi color. And I was thinking about using these leftovers in the border, but then when I realized the blanket was so big, there's actually not enough left in here. Okay, can you see that? Those are all my leftovers. Am I going to make another leftovers blanket like I did with my Karen cakes? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So there is 1 ball of yarn in here for every color that I use. So there's 20 little balls of leftovers here. I know, I'm making a mess as I put them back in there. It's all right. I'll fix them when I'm off camera. Don't worry, I don't leave them like that. I go rewind them. Because if I leave those yarn tails stick out, the kitty cats will think they can go play with them. So here are the yarn labels. Let's see if I can find one that doesn't have my own notes on it. See, for almost every ball of yarn I bring into the house, I do notes on it, okay? I actually do it with all of my books too. When I buy books, when I bring them in, I put a Post-it on the front page of the book. It'll have the thrift store I bought it at, the date I bought it, how much I paid for it, and then when I read it, I put the date in there of when I read it. So this way I can see that I actually still have some books on my shelves from 2018 that I bought that I haven't read yet. So I started doing that with my yarn labels too. So I bought this at Joann's on March 10th, 2017. Its regular price was $5.99. Sale price was $3.99. It was 25% off that day. So I paid $2.99 plus tax. The color is Silver Swirl and it's grays and whites. And it was cake number 1 that I used on July 18th, 2017. So then this is what the rest of the label looks like. So it says Sweet Rolls. And then it has the color on there. 100% acrylic, number 4 medium weight. Underneath of this label, it will give me all the other information. Yeah, premieryarns.com. It gives me the ounces, the grams, the yards, the meters. The number 4, what kind of hook to use. And there we go. This time I actually saved all of my yarn labels so I can figure out when I used it, how quick I was crocheting this blanket. The mint swirl I got free from my mom. She had it. Thought it would work well in my blanket, so I didn't pay for that one. Bought that one at AC Moore. Most of these I got at Joann Fabrics, but Joann's doesn't call themselves Joann Fabrics anymore. It's just Joann now. But they don't actually carry these in my store anymore. Now it's just at joann.com. So you see some of them I paid $2.99 for. I mean, not $2.99, $2.54. Some of them I paid $3.99. There are some in here I actually paid $5.99 for. So yeah, there are a lot of my yarn that I bring into the house, I put labels on. My own little Post-it note system so I can keep track of them. So yeah, here's where I took a break when I was making this blanket. I got up to color number 12, which was Cherry Swirl, in August of 2017, and I put the blanket down. I was undecided if I wanted to make it bigger. I put it in timeout. So then I started working on it again in December of 2017. December again. December, right before Christmas. I'm curious as to when I finished it. December 23rd, December 24th to the 27th. So I finished cake number 18 on December 27th. And I didn't do the border until October of 2019. So 2 years later, I did the border. Was that dull and boring? I know. I also figured out how much I spent on it. I wrote down what colors are still made today and still sold today, and all the grams and the yards and the meters. So let me change my spot here. Okay. All right, so I'm having a little bit of a down day with the depression, and I am trying to fight through it, and I get tired sometimes. And I can't fake the energy, you know, and I'm sorry for that. It's a down day. So, Premier Sweet Rolls. It's a cake yarn. It's a number 4 medium worsted weight. It's 100% acrylic. I like working with the Sweet Roll. It is soft. And I like their colors. Some of their color combinations I could have done without. The blues with the gray, I'm not a big fan of that. But those darker shades of red that are like brick red, and those browns and those oranges from the 70s, those I absolutely love. Yeah, maybe because I was born in the 70s. I don't know. So 20 cakes of yarn. 20 cakes. That comes out, each cake was 5 ounces or 140 grams. So times that by 20, I used 100 ounces of yarn or 2,800 grams, okay? Yardage, 245 yards per cake or 224 meters. Times that by 20, it's 4,900 yards, okay? With 4,480 for meters, 4,480 meters. My cost, with all the sale prices, and some of them were full price at $5.99. I came up with $63.27. Okay, so $65. If you went and bought 20 balls or 20 cakes of this stuff today at $5.99 at Premier's website, it'd be $119.80. So try to find them on sale if you can. Or if you have some in your stash, go ahead. You guys do not have to make this blanket as big as I did. And I came in at 160 rows. By all means, make it shorter. I was going crazy, and I wanted something really big for all the boyfriends out there who are tall and they can't cover their shoulders and their feet. Because see, my husband's like that. Whenever I make a blanket, I've got to make it over 6 feet because he's over 6 feet. So there you go. If you shop at Hirschner's, Hirschner's is having a sale. Some of the cakes of yarn are $4.49. Some of them are $6.99. So anywhere between $89 and $140. Okay, but seriously, I would not suggest making this blanket 120 inches tall. 10 feet. 10 feet. That'll cover almost anybody, right? And 61 inches wide. So, I mean, I was lucky because I was shopping whenever they had a sale, when it was $5.99 and they had it on sale for $3.99, and then I would have a coupon on top of that. I was lucky that I kept my cost down to $63. Okay, I do know that it took me somewhere in my old notes, because like there's notes from today where I sat on the floor writing my notes today. Oh, I look a little washed out today. These are my notes from 2017. Okay, what's it say? New pattern, sweet rolls, Jacob's ladder. And my chain, I tried a chain of 212 and it didn't work for me. I tried a chain of 253, that didn't work for me. So my initial starting chain was 250. plus 7 plus 7 plus 3. That's math that works for me. Where was I going with all that? I don't know. Oh, hook size. I used an I, which is 5.5 millimeter, I want to say. Oh yeah, I was counting out the rows, scribbles. And then this one here, I wrote down silver swirl because that's the first color I started with. Row 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 were silver swirl because row 1 is Red Heart Super Saver in white. Okay, so this is how I make little boxes with row numbers and put a check mark, and then I had the color code because I wasn't sure how many rows I would be getting out of each cake. And then I switched over to pencil on that side, and then I gave up down here with cherry swirl in August, and I didn't write anything else after that. So I know I did time myself. Time per row. 10 minutes. 10 minutes per row. And I came up with how many rows? Those I counted today at 160. Let's do the math right here, okay? 160 rows times 10 minutes. 1,600 minutes, which is divided by 60 because there's 60 minutes in an hour. Took me 26.6 hours. 26 hours to work on this blanket. I did not time myself doing the border because, you know, that border is 2 long sides, 2 short sides, and I did it 4 times. I didn't time myself on the border. Wow, 26 hours. But over the space of 6 months and then a year, now 4 years before I even sit and touch it and figure out what I'm doing with it. All right, so let's go with the colors that are still on Premier's website, premier.com and Hirschner's.com. Silver swirl, they still make. Blueberry swirl, frosty swirl, raspberry swirl, and black pepper swirl. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors they still make. Okay, they don't make pink swirl, mint, grape, caramel, blueberry, wild cherry, no punch pop, no butterscotch pop, no blackberry swirl, no cherry swirl, ice pop, root beer pop, which is a shame. I think they do have a cinnamon pop that's very similar to the root beer, but I love that root beer pop color. I really do. That's that one right there, the browns and the oranges and golds. I love that. They don't have lavender swirl or wasabi pop, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry that all of these blankets that I'm doing are, you know, 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old, that the yarns just, if the yarn company still makes the yarn, they just don't necessarily make these colors. I'm sorry. I mean, you can make this blanket in any yarn that you wanted. You could do solid colors. You can do variegated colors. You can do speckles. You know, but I liked working on it. I'll just never do it again. Maybe that's, I'm having a hard time with this because I'll never do it again. I do like the texture that it gives. I love texture in my blankets, but because I use such a bigger hook and I actually made it kind of loose, it's not my favorite. So I have a whole, I don't have a whole bunch of yarn tails, just some that I need to sit and crochet them in. It's like holding a really big snake. You know? Oh my goodness. Yeah, if I ever did a Jacob's ladder, I wouldn't make it as big as this again. But you know what it is? It's because I like to buy one cake or one skein or one ball of every color and put it all into the same blanket. It's because I hate working with one solid color. I get bored. So while I can do large, big blankets, I get bored with one solid color. Yeah. Well, yeah, see, I love these browns right here. Love that too. And this shade of pink right here, this raspberry swirl, really enjoy that one. So yeah, there's my Jacob's Ladder blanket. I put a lot of time and effort into this one, especially working out those numbers. Now, I did go to the internet back in 2017. I was not a heavy YouTube user at the time, and I did find plenty of tutorials. There are so many out there, and everybody does it their own way. So I found a lady who did it in a way that would be similar to the way I would do it if I was working it out on my own. So she did help me with sizing and numbers, telling me that, you know, when you did your loops, that you would lose some of the width, okay, and you would have to make sure it was working for you. So I really enjoyed her videos. And you know, that's 7 years ago. I know, 6 years ago. I don't remember who she was at the time. And creators, they come and go real quick on YouTube sometimes. So there we go. My version of the Jacob's Ladder. I probably will not type this one out in the description box, because I don't have a real set of notes on it, and I'm not going to do that today. I'm not in the mood. I'm sorry that the energy for this video is a lot more low-key. Yeah, I'm struggling today. The in-laws are supposed to be coming today. My house it's a disaster zone. I'm in the middle of so many different projects. I'm still working on a spider stitch blanket in the background. I'm still working on a sweater vibes blanket that I'm using the Red Heart Super Saver and the retro stripes. I'm working on a tree skirt, and instead of it being for Christmas, it's for Halloween. So I'm working on 3 different projects in the background. Yeah, I'm just not in the right headspace for company today. So wish me luck. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.